Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another segment of NDI November. I see some people joining us from Las Vegas and Texas. Very cool to see people joining us from all over the country and all over the world. We have a great lineup of interviews happening today. Last week, we were supposed to have Mike Bergeron join us to talk about Panasonic and their role in the NDI workflows with their PTZ cameras. We had a little bit of a scheduling conflict, but he did still arrive in our studio, and we did record with him last week. So we will play that for you right now. And then after that, we'll be live in studio with Matt Baker joining us from Visua. But up first, Panasonic and their PTZ workflows in NDI.
Hey, this is Jim with NDI November. Thank you for joining us for another episode. I am being joined live in studio with Mike Bergeron from Panasonic. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jim, happy to be here.
We are going to talk about Panasonic Pro AV camera solutions, live production and streaming systems, the Panasonic Hero systems, and everything NDI and more. We invited Mike here to join us in studio. Mike, introduce yourself and Panasonic Pro AV to our audience.
All right. Hi, my name is Mike Bergeron. I'm a product manager at Panasonic. Been there for quite some time. I was responsible for launching the Kairos platform when that came out right during the pandemic, which was great. But also I've been a camera engineer, going back into the 90s.
Yep.
Started out in film. Work my way, through just about every technology there is.
And that's one of the reasons why we invited you to join us today, because we know you can speak to a lot of these different solutions, the Panasonic products, but also the workflows that our customers are using to set up the AV over IP network. And, as much as we're talking about the NDI technology, AV over IP kind of first was established in the broadcast space with ST2110 and even precursors to that. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was involved with like the Video Services Forum way back, and when they created the TRO3 standard, and at that point there was a whole thing where Evertz had a system and Sony had a system and everybody, but it finally converged,
right? And
then that became SMPTE 2110. That was solving a very different problem than what we're doing with AV now.
Yes.
And with things like NDI. That was just, you couldn't scale SDI up as much as they wanted to scale it.
Right.
Like for those so many signals. And so they went to just IP networks, but like big IP networks, like 100 gig switches and things like that, because those could scale indefinitely, and it's basically the whole world. And so that could be expensive because you had to have gateways to turn all your SDI signals into 2110. I mean, for a huge system, it was worth it because you get your core routing. But I mean, everybody looks at that, and in a video director, someone they go, "Oh, AV over IP," and they're thinking, Cat6 cables,
right?
Because that's like, wow, I have IP all over my campus. I could use that for, because at the time it's like you were thinking like, oh, am I going to pull HDMI everywhere, or
right.
That maybe they hadn't even done SDI yet, So there was a desire to take advantage of gigabit networks.
Absolutely.
And
I think that's one of the things you point out too, is the ST2110 was built for the scalability, whereas I think one of the reasons for the popularity and the adoption of NDI is that it was almost a way to replace the SDI cable. It gave you more of these local area network installations and some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, where it gives you an independence of sources and production systems, right?
Yeah, when we were putting streaming outputs on the PTZ cameras going way back, and it was really more of you could use it for monitoring. It was like an RTSP, just a streaming protocol. But the early on, the new tech was accepting it as an input.
Yep.
And also they could control the cameras, with the old joystick on that thing. And so they had the streaming video and the control protocols and things on the same cable. This is about the same time that you started to see the PoE becoming available. So like the idea of what you have with a broadcast studio camera with the hybrid cable, where you've got power and control and video essence all on one cable. To do that with with something that's in your drawer was really appealing, and also because of that you could avoid having to put all your like SDI cards on your computer hardware, which was kind of expensive to do.
Absolutely.
So the idea that it didn't take long till that just got widely adopted, because I connect to the computers. If I could connect to the camera, then that it's easy for me to plug and play and get a network going. But then it's just a matter of, okay, how many gateways can I get rid of if I can make things native?
Absolutely. Yep. And you mentioned, and we talk about it all the time, but with the Panasonic Pro PTZ cameras, you have a single Cat 6 cable that is giving your audio video feedback to the production system. It's giving you the control capabilities, and with PoE, it's powering that camera.
Yeah.
So that single connection, that single cable running to that camera, it gives you the flexibility of installing that camera pretty much anywhere. And that's kind of what's led to this being such a game changer in the marketplace, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, there were already years worth of deployments of the Panasonic PTZs where they were already putting that gigabit LAN in place just for the control network, because I mean we had gone, and we still support serial control, but we were doing most of your camera control was happening over that network, and also tally was happening over that network. And so once you had the video essence on there, that was that. You had everything in there. And so where you've got that kind of infrastructure, that's really appealing, because it's the same people in the organization who are putting in the computer network, who are hanging the projectors, who are putting these cameras in. They can use the same skills, the same tools to make a video conference room to make a conference room into a video conference room with multi-camera.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about some of those different workflows, everything from corporate AV to education, presentation, lecture capture, and live event production. I know in the corporate AV space, it's great because these corporations were one of the first ones to set up these robust IT networks, where there is going to be that network patch cable available to any conference room that you want to put a camera in. But one of the things that's great about the Panasonic camera lineup is your cameras range in series from everything that could be a corporate Zoom camera to a high-end broadcast camera. And these are being adapted all along that product lineup in corporations all over, right?
Well, it's great because I think the direction we would usually go is we'll introduce the best camera we can make for broadcast application, and then we'll say, okay, how can we get this? How can we get a more affordable version of this? Okay, and what's expensive? And one of the things that's expensive is the SDI, the SDI card. And some of the other things, and having the sync input and things. And so we can sort of start removing these things and stripping something down until it's until you get to the price point that you need, but it still has the same quality of your pen, smooth moves and everything still works with the same controllers. And that's actually where some of these big customers, they like that, where once they get their guys trained on the controllers and setting everything up, they'll do the big multi-purpose room where the executives go, and then the same guys who set that up can then get some lower cost cameras and put in a huddle room somewhere. And not only that, because it's a network, I can do one control room. And I can hit all the different spaces.
And we can show off how the Panasonic PTZ camera lineup really does fit into all these different applications. And I know that NDI is native now on the entire product family, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's still stuff going around that I think there's still some kicking
around. You got
around.
plenty of choices of
but I mean, you got a lot of choices. And yeah, it's native on all those. And actually, we recently showed, and I put this on here, but we recently showed a new controller where it can do a decode of a signal for the monitor.
Oh wow!
For an SDI output.
Great.
So it's like another extra thing you can do with the controller. So you save yourself the trouble of having to build that.
Absolutely. It gives you more flexible
Mm-hmm.
workflows. You'll see through the different camera families that they have here, everything set up from that web conference, house of worship PTZ, corporate AV installations, to everything up to the high-end corporate AV applications, live event stages, even Broadway theaters are using some of these PTZs,
and even though some of these campuses will even put in a 2110 network, and which you would support with a UE160, but they're still going to run the streaming because that network is there. You're running that network no matter what, because that's your control network. And so once you're plugging in a controller, that same plug you can pull the signal out of.
Perfect. And before we get off this slide, I want to give honorable mention to the UR100, which is your outdoor camera. Super popular, especially in sports production applications. And again, that does give you that same network capability, the same NDI capability in a camera that is made for outdoor installations. So that's being used. I've seen them in stadiums right here in New York.
Oh yeah.
That's being used all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what's happened in there is that you've started to get to the types of production that people want to do, and I think this comes down to I would blame the pandemic for this, where everybody got used to seeing a higher production value from everywhere, and everybody learned how to do these things because they were broadcasting from their home and things, and so this became an expectation, and so something like a panel discussion where you want to have multiple cameras, but you also need to attach to teams for just for a town hall meeting or something like that. It's standard communication technology now.
Absolutely. We're looking at a workflow here that could be in a corporate AV application. It could be government. It could be education. Anything that is that town hall type discussion. Giving you the capability of managing all of that over the network is really one of the big advantages in the stuff that we're talking about today.
Right, and not that different, but with like slightly different priorities is the education space and the higher education and even beyond that. And they were already like prior to the pandemic, they were already putting a lot of resources into recording every lecture. And so that you could review, you could scan it, you can go and even look at the lecture at home before you come in and attend the lecture, so you have your questions ready.
Absolutely.
And that's something they were. I don't know if they're still calling it. They were calling it flipped learning for a while. That was very, very popular. And that when I'm managing that on a network, that means I can have a single conference room. A single control room. And from that control room, I can manage lectures in different spaces on a campus. The network gives you that.
Absolutely. And I know we have a lot of system integrators that tune into our NDI November. And I know one of the things the system integrators love is the control protocols that we talked about. Putting the control over the network allows them to easily tie in to these control systems, whether it's a Crestron or AMH system, or even a lecture capture or a content management system. Like Panopto or Kaltura. You can do all of that with these Panasonic workflows, and NDI is really one of the big engines that allows you to get that flexibility. Right?
Yeah, the NDI is kind of a shortcut to compatibility with a lot of things, which we've definitely taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
Now and I might have alluded to this before, but because this is all network enabled, and because we're creating more software. We can tie our software systems onto that same network. And in the case of what the software we're launching now is mostly based on the Media Production Suite platform. Now that starts with a free download, and that's got device management on it. And when you think about, if we go back to that 2110, the device management or orchestration systems that you had for those were massive. But here with the Media Production Suite, it's just everything on the network in terms of your PTZ controls and everything. And we've had all these little software things that allow you to change the IP addresses from one spot. But what we've added to it is that you can change all the formats all at once. So you could say, Today we're going to do a 4K production, so I can go in. I don't have to go and change every camera. I can just do a bulk change and switch everything over to UHD.
Perfect.
But then on that, we'll put like the auto tracking and the advanced auto framing on that same
So
platform.
this platform will be like your gateway
Mm-hmm.
to all of these other software tools to get more out of the PTZ line.
And if you're setting up like a multi-camera auto framing system,
Yep.
you're going to want to have access to all the IP addresses and formats of the cameras to set that up. So you can do that all in one platform there.
That's great.
And actually the video mixer plugin, which is one of those, is supporting NDI. So not only can it do a green screen and all these other things, but it will just do a 4x2 mixer of NDI.
Mike, I don't want to commit you to anything, but we might have to have you back on an episode to do a demo of the media production.
We should definitely do that. That'll be the next one.
I think that'd be great. And then we talked about the live entertainment, live events. These are the venues, staging productions, really getting the most out of that optical image quality, right?
This is where you really want the high quality, when you want the high quality systems. But the thing about these big events is folks are realizing that once they've staged this event, once they've brought the talent in, they want to generate as much content out of that as possible.
Absolutely.
And so they just keep going back to the well to get more content. No, that's good. We'll go to that.
This was the slide I was looking for.
No, but just go to that one here because even though you've got this SDI infrastructure, you've got this 21 and 10 stuff that's feeding your outside broadcast trucks or maybe your big scoreboard. There's still all this other content you want to, there's the big broadcast feed and that's going to the network and everything, and that's there.
Right.
But there's all these other things you want to do. You want to do fan engagement stuff. You want to do stuff in the luxury suites. You want to do stuff for people's fantasy teams and every player now has got an Instagram feed.
Absolutely.
That they're doing. So every time I look, there's some other content that somebody wants to squeeze from that content that's on the network.
Absolutely.
So if we can run a streaming network, an NDI network or something alongside that content, then we can serve up all those angles, all those camera angles to create more and more content.
Absolutely. We have one of our dealers that joined us for NDI November that talks a lot about how they're using NDI networks in sports venues to get the fan engagement.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're driving it right to the LED display in the venue itself, but then someone else is patched into that same camera and using that source to create the broadcast that goes out to the community.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not changing that NEP truck over to NDI,
exactly,
but it doesn't, but that doesn't change the fact that I want that content in the gigabit to be on my Gigi network.
Absolutely, and what we're looking at here is Panasonic, being one of the leaders in the industry, is involved in a lot of these huge venue applications. But not every venue that's using Panasonic cameras is a giant venue like we're looking at on the screen.
Well, and
just local concert halls and even stage and arenas.
Even in the main broadcast, if some of this other content you want that to go to the operators, say that becomes more important, I can send that NDI signal back into the camera for return video, to provide for the operator. So say, one of these things that was sort of like a tertiary bit of content became really important.
Yep.
Where somebody's doing their, where one of your players starts dating Taylor Swift or something. Like all of a sudden this other sidebar content becomes hugely valuable. Maybe I want to feed that to my return video for an operator who's doing that. And so that's where we started on the high-end stuff, adding those NDI ports alongside the SDI, alongside the 2110, and that's in the PTZs, the studio cameras and the CCU. Like the beauty of having a CCU is I can just keep putting ports on that,
right?
And so in the new CCUs, we've got a NDI port, we've got an extra Dante port, we've got a SRT. All these things on there, so you can run into whatever network, whatever network pulls up a van or a fly pack.
Yep. And I know we've seen that all the time too. A house of worship, might have an LED display wall that was installed ages ago, and they're using an SDI or an HDMI video connection to that, but they still want to take the cameras and put it on the network to send an SRT stream out to their audience that can't make it into the venue, or to use an NDI production system to create some of the content that we've talked about.
Well, or somebody just walks in and they want to show some content from their laptop. And, I mean, what a nightmare that can be to go hunt down all the cables for that.
Absolutely.
Where I can just plug that in, and I can get that NDI signal, and I can deal with it. I mean, and it's PowerPoint or something. So it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be like a single line of delay. I mean, that's where we have the NDI inputs on Kairos. They used all the time. It's just a couple of inputs, but it saves you so much trouble.
And we should talk a little bit about the power of the Kairos systems. So Kairos is Panasonic's production engine that is based on a CPU, GPU architecture, software-based, tremendously scalable, really could fit in as the production brain to all these different applications that we've talked about today, right?
Yeah, I mean, the neat thing about Kairos is that I can build a screen I can build some screen content. And I can build it for any screen. And once I've decided what screen I'm going to build it for, and that could be like a 32:9 LED wall or something, I can take any of the content that I have and mix it in there, put it in as a layer. And so if somebody comes in with that, if somebody walked in with a laptop and they just wanted to put some, or they just want to put like the operating system of some new app they want to show you. Or it's a guy coming in and doing a Salesforce demo. He wants to just pull it easy peasy. Just goes in the NDI port, and then that can be put in as a layer. Just put it in over the shoulder, layer it in. You can fade it in and out, and also you're building this screen content just like you're working in After Effects or Photoshop.
Absolutely.
Except you're messing with live video in some cases, or pictures or recordings.
Absolutely. We talked a lot about this and just the flexibility of combining all these different things together, whether it's the Panasonic Pro AV cameras, your production systems, the media production suite, Kairos systems. You have the flexibility to really create a system.
And you'll notice there's something there called Content Compass, and that's something that's coming. I'll give you a little teaser on that.
Excellent.
And what that is doing is orchestration and network management for all these systems. So I can use that to route NDI or SRT. I can use it to NMOS route any of the 2110 stuff I have. But also I'm just looking at, I can just see all the network stuff and build the topology and control it. I can use it to switch over all my paint controls from one room to another room, like in one platform. And so like working together with the media production suite, we're and Kairos, I guess for that matter, we're moving from being just edge devices to really being at the core of the production.
And that's what I hope really comes across in our presentation today, is how Panasonic is building the tools for the workflow, the device management, the order tracking, the control capabilities, even the advanced controller that you introduced and that you talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean,
these are all ways of just getting more out of the system.
Well,
right?
what we want people to be looking at is the room. Like, what's the space? What does the space do? The space is I can do a panel discussion with 4 people, and I can do a panel discussion with 4 people, and I can have one operator control the whole thing.
Right.
And then he or she can maybe even be doing another room at the same time.
Great.
And that's, we'll start there. We can drill down to what are the components to that.
Yes.
But I mean, the person who's in charge and is setting this up, that's the first thing they need to understand. What is this going to be, when the room is done?
Absolutely. And, that really is a great way to think about everything that we're talking about this entire month long on NDI November. It's finding the right tools to get the right production for your needs. If you have any questions about the Panasonic solutions that we talked about today, give us a call, 800-634-5178. We have a great network of integrators, resellers, Panasonic trained and authorized, ready to help answer any of your questions. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's fun.
It's always great when we get to have a guest join us here in our New York studio and talk about these great workflows that are available. Panasonic has a great range of PTZ cameras, just all around great stuff going on. Next up is going to be an interview with Jim Bask again with Matt Baker. Matt Baker did a install not too long ago for the Knoxville Smokies. It's a minor league baseball team, and the whole thing was basically routed using NDI. So we'll have Matt and Jim talk about that now.
Hey, this is Jim back with another segment on NDI November, talking with Matt Baker at Visual. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Hey, Jim, thanks for having me. Always a fun time of the year. We get to do this and talk about NDI. It's exciting.
Absolutely. It really is exciting. You've joined us on these shows before. You know a lot of the format and things that we're going to talk about, but I'd like to take a brief moment for our audience tuning in today. Please introduce yourself, introduce Visual for all of our audience that have tuned in.
Yeah, like I said, Matt Baker, I'm with Visual. So Visual, we're an AV integration firm that we do everything from large format LED displays to audio systems to video production, digital signage, essentially anything that turns on and off in a sports facility, because our primary market for the last 40 years has been tier 2 sports stadiums, so minor league baseball, hockey stadium, soccer, which is getting really popular out there right now. That's essentially kind of what we do, and our focus has always been we help teams. That's kind of our motto, and just helping teams design stadiums, design AV systems, and help them produce a great fan experience.
That's awesome. And we invited you to join us today to talk about one of those experiences, the work that you did with the Knoxville Smokies at the Covenant Health Park. Can you tell us a little bit about this project?
Sure. Yeah, this has been kind of a huge project we've worked on the last, I'd say, about 5 years that just opened April of this year. And you can see kind of one of the main focuses on your screen right now of that stadium is a video board that's actually in the shape of Tennessee. That's been kind of one of our premier things that we've done. Now, for some reason, now we're like a firm that can design LED screens in the shape of states. But that's kind of the main the focus of the stadium. But really, as we've designed that project and spent time building that out, because we did the video board, the digital signage, the audio system, like I said, everything that turned on. And as we were thinking about how we were going to design this system and thinking about like the tier 2 budgets, and how to keep costs down, but also give more flexibility in that great fan experience. NDI has always been kind of the driver of that for us, and it really has become a standard in how we design these stadiums, because we wanted to give the client the ability to anywhere in their ballpark acquire a source and send that source to wherever they want in that facility, whether it's just going straight to their replay machine or their switcher out to the viewer at home, or from a TV or a spot in their ballpark club to the TVs in the ballpark club. Sending sources is kind of a key piece of how we designed the system and how we integrated NDI in there. So we put like 9 PTZ cameras in this facility, to give them the ability to show their fans and give them unique angles. So we have 7 PTZ cameras that are out in the field, 2 down in the dugouts, 2 that are up high in the concourses, 2 that are out in the corners in the right in the left field quarters, and then 1 out in center field. But we kind of did something that also a little bit unique as well. We put a little PTZ camera in the play-by-play booth that gives the play-by-play commentators control over how they're viewed in the broadcast, as well as we put a PTZ camera actually in their press box where they painted their wall green, and give them the ability to access their green screen and display content throughout the facility at any time through there. So NDI was a big driver of how we built out that stadium. to acquire sources and distribute those sources to more than just the broadcast, the in-house show, and throughout the screens that are inside the facility.
And I think that's one of the important things to understand for our audience is when you get those cameras and all those sources onto the network, they become available to not only drive the broadcast outside of the stadium, but they help create a better in-venue experience by taking all of those sources available to that beautiful video board in the shape of Tennessee, right?
Yeah, and it gives them more flexibility on how they operate their stadium as well, right? So they
Sure.
have a ballpark club that's right behind home plate, this big ballpark club, and they activate it quite a bit with different events and such. And they've got TVs in that place, and they've, you could plug a HDMI port into the wall, but we want to give them a little bit more flexibility and a little more power, essentially. So we gave them essentially what we call our little NDI road kits, right? So like we give them a little NDI encoder
Okay.
that they can take, and we've got ports in the ground, Ethernet ports that are in the floor that they can open up and plug a source in there, whether it's like a presentation that someone's brought in or whatever. And the ability with NDI is we can send it to the TVs that are in that ballpark club because everything is connected within that facility, we can also send that to the video board as well, which gives them a little bit more power to the activation within that room, as they can display stuff throughout the facility, also throughout the suites, and they can distribute to wherever they want because they're utilizing NDI to do that and acquire that and then distribute it.
Absolutely. And that's all being handled from a centralized control area right there in the stadium itself as well, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we've got you can control everything from their press box, their control room, as you're seeing right there. In that screen right there, we have your typical TriCaster TC1 Pro there, PTZ camera operator to the left of him. Flowix is running their graphics for their in-house broadcast, which is a really powerful tool for them. And then they got their 3Play. But outside of just that central control, right there, the beautiful thing about NDI with NDI tools is you can just pull up your laptop and view your sources, all those NDI sources, and then control them from anywhere, from your laptop or so their offices are actually in a building that's across, kind of not within the main building, but a separate building, but it's all within that same network. So from there, they can also control and access their NDI sources and view them and monitor them, which is a really powerful thing about NDI. Is it's not just you can only control it from one central area. You can also have the flexibility to view and monitor and control from anywhere on that network.
It really gives you that flexibility of creating your control either on-prem or off. Even if you're not across the street, you can access that network, as we talked quite a bit about over these last couple of weeks. And of course, this is all designed and ready to go when your sporting team, the Knoxville Smokies in this case, or anyone else needs to get ready and get live for a game, right?
Correct. Yeah. The beautiful thing about a PTZ camera, I always like to talk about this because PTZ cameras, they're always on, right? They're never late. They're always on, and you can always utilize them in your show. So my favorite thing, because we put their PTZ cameras up high in the concourse, and they're kind of.
Well, we ran into a little hiccup there. Just had a little bit of a technical difficulty. Matt, we got you back. I want to go over that last point. I don't know when exactly the technology kicked out on us, but we were talking about the process of the control room and everything that these guys can do there in the control room and how they have access to the PTZ cameras all across the ballpark. And you were telling me about some interesting things that you like to do with some of those cameras, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of cool things. If you have PTZ cameras, right? I always kind of talk about how they're always on, right? And especially they're never late for anything that you're trying to do. They're always on, they're always accessible. So we try to use them for a couple different ways outside of just your normal production and normal, first to ninth inning show. Is when people are walking in the stadium, you've got all those PTZ cameras. We like to take them and then point them at the fans and try to get them on the video board as soon as we can and get them ingrained and immersed in the show and the fan experience. And that's a powerful thing about these PTZ cameras and NDI, because they're always on, they're always accessible. We can do that. For me as an integrator, what's also kind of cool with PTZ cameras and NDI is that I can access and see the ballpark when I need to for troubleshooting, or for the client for security purposes, that I can access those PTZs, move them around, and I get a 360 view of the ballpark through those whenever I need to through NDI. So there's a lot of unique things that you can do that you might not typically think about with how to utilize your PTZ cameras and NDI through sending sources and accessing sources, whether it's on your network or remote as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things you see in these ballparks is it becomes increasingly important to engage with the fans. So when the baseball game is not happening and you can get the fans onto the scoreboard just by turning one of your cameras in the outfield onto them, it brings them into the stadium, it makes them part of the experience, and it builds upon that community that especially the minor league baseball teams and other tier 2 sports that you talk about are really looking for in their ballparks, right?
For sure. I mean, we talked a lot about that in Sports Stream a couple months ago about putting the fan up on the video board and how much that impacts that fan for their life, essentially, especially young kids, right? Like it makes a huge
Yep.
impact on them, and it's all about driving fans back to your facility or viewers at home to want to watch again. So giving them unique views and unique things, and that's why we utilize NDI, because it gives you the flexibility to be creative and do things that you couldn't typically do if you just ran one home run cable back to a camera drop somewhere and you're kind of stuck in that location. With NDI, you have so much flexibility to do much more than that.
That's awesome. And Matt, we have one other picture to pull up here, and it just shows how excited you get when these stadiums are up and running and ready to go. Tell us a little bit about this shot.
Yeah, that was opening day right there.
Nice.
From everybody getting ready. It's opening day. Whenever you're opening up a new stadium, there's always a little bit of chaos. I say a little bit. Actually, there's a lot of bit of chaos because everybody's running around like, oh my gosh, we're opening this place. We're turning everything on for the first time. What's gonna go wrong? How do we adapt and how do we move forward? So that was kind of the calm before the storm, but actually went really well. I always talk about kind of the moment of anytime you're opening a stadium, is that when the national anthem singer, as an integrator that does these big stadiums, when the national anthem singer comes up and is singing, and then you got the wireless mics and everything is focused on them, and everything's focused on the sound, the visuals. That's kind of the key moment that you're like, we did it. We opened up a new stadium. All the fans are here, and we made it through, and everything went off without a hitch, and it's great. Other than, you got to look this up on YouTube. There's a video, they actually had the Eagles, can't remember the name of the Eagles eagle, like that flies at every Eagles game. They had that for their opening day. It attacked the camera operator on that day. Check it out on YouTube. It's a funny video.
Oh, wow. And we will
Flew
include
around
that
in circles
YouTube
and
video.
attacked them.
We will absolutely include that YouTube video with this. That's great. That's a lot of fun. If you have any questions about the ballpark application that we talked about today, or need help in your sports stadium for NDI production, scoreboard displays, any of that production technology that we talked about, Matt at Visua is a great person to reach out to. You can go to visua.us, reach out to Matt and the rest of their team, and they can definitely help you out on that. Matt, thank you so much for sharing this case study with us. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you next year.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to Jim for doing both of those interviews with Panasonic and then with Visua. And thank you for joining us today for another episode of NDI November. Again, we still have a lot of great content coming up. We have more system integrator spotlights coming up next week. And our main shows are still with Bird Dog on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, talking about their whole range of new PTZ cameras, and also Bird Dog Connect, more information on that Tuesday. And then I will be joined live in studio by David Duku from Canon to talk about some really new exciting things coming from Canon as well. And then on Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will be doing our NDI Advisory Board roundtable. We just had one more member sign on for that today. So very exciting stuff coming from NDI November. We will see you next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks.